Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Mark Wall from American Rare Earths. And Mark, you've barely been the CEO for half a year, and there's just a dust storm behind you.
Hi, Tracy. And I remember I got to meet you before it even started officially. So I think that was a big help in the process as well, just learning some of the history of the company. It's been great, Tracy. A lot of stuff to do. We're in Wyoming, which is fantastic. And I've moved. I'm set up now in the United States, living here with my family. So that's great too. Great place to live. And what a great project, Halleck Creek. It's really going to be the cornerstone of rare earth, magnet rare earth development in the United States for many, many, many years. Very exciting, Tracy.
For those of you out there going, American Rare Earths, I'm not sure we understand the story. We just did an Instagram video, and I asked you the question, why is Halleck Creek arguably the most exciting rare earth project in the United States? So, how about we start there?
And because it was Instagram, I had to give you a really short answer. But what we said was it's the largest. It contains heavy and light rare earths. We know the heavies are very strategic. We know the lights we really need for things like robotics. And it's in Wyoming, which is a great place to be if you're going to operate in the resource industry in the United States. So I think this Halleck Creek project has everything going for it. It has the infrastructure of Wyoming to boot. And then, of course, there's the exploration opportunities we have more broadly, but Halleck Creek at surface as well. Super exciting project.
Well, we love Wyoming for a number of reasons, but of great interest to me is that you got the CEO for UR Energy. I mean, are they not like one of the top three uranium producers in the United States to join your board of directors? I saw that as a headline recently.
Well, a tremendous person as well. I mean, Matthew Gilley is a mining engineer, an accomplished mining engineer. I know that he was at Rio Tinto for a number of years. He was the COO of Oyu Tolgoi. We all know is a fairly large copper deposit in or operation in Mongolia. He was also the chief technical officer at Barrick. So this is a person who is deeply technical and lives in Casper, Wyoming, which is an amazing place to live by all accounts. But so having that Wyoming, important Wyoming piece through Matthew Gilley, but also he brings that project development experience, mining engineering experience. So very, very happy to have him on our board.
Something that you did recently, which I really like, I think more companies need to do this. You actually took the time to provide the shareholders with an exploration update and outlining your field program strategy for this year and moving forward. I'd love for you to hit some of those highlights and share it with the Investor News audience.
Sure, Tracy. I mean, the interesting thing with this company is Halleck Creek, multi-generational resource, heavy and light rare earth sitting in Wyoming, and a tremendous amount of work to do on that project. Again, it will be the cornerstone of production for generations in the United States. It's easy to lose focus on the other things that exist in the portfolio, but we've been trying to be disciplined and coming back and saying, okay, let's look at Beaver Creek, also in Wyoming, some similarities to Halleck Creek in that it's allanite related, but then other deposits, Searchlight in Nevada, are quite close to companies like MP Material in a very prospective part of the world, and we're unpacking Searchlight at the moment. We've got La Paz in Arizona. It has different strengths and weaknesses as well. So super interesting portfolio, and we're just taking a disciplined approach to unpacking these opportunities to make sure that we focus on where the value is all of the time.
And of course, I personally love it. I love CEOs that follow orderly channel processes that the shareholders can actually follow. And I think speaking of that, when we initially spoke, I know the plan is to move American rare earths, onto the Nasdaq. How is that process proceeding?
It's going well, Tracy. I mean, we are a US company. As I've said, I'm living in the US with my family. The people that I'm bringing on board to strengthen the team are all here with me. The assets are in the US, and this particular commodity is very strategic to the US and to the West more broadly. So it's natural that we need to be a fully US company. We are OTC traded. There is an ADR and an OTCF. So we're already have a footprint in the US on the trading side. Our largest institutional shareholder is Fidelity, obviously a US name, but we need to do better. And how we're going to do that is we're going to list on the Nasdaq fully. We're going to really embrace more fully the US market, US shareholders, and do more talking to US institutions because this is a US story.
And of course, you have an aggressive drilling program underway. How is that going? Can you give us any tidbits?
No, except that it's going well. We're around 10 holes in. This is a part of our feasibility study. So what we're doing here is the PFS has been pushing along, and we're in that optimization period that always takes place when you're at the end of one of these studies. But we've taken the opportunity after looking at the PFS to say we're straight into the FS. We've got no time to waste. Normally or often companies will move in series, and that just slows things down. So we're moving in parallel on a whole range of things. And one of them is we've started the infill drilling required to convert resource to reserve for a feasibility study actually before we've published the PFS. Just that's our level of confidence, Tracy.
And the timeline for the PFS, can you give us some kind of ETA?
We've said the end of Q3. And we're, as with all studies, you've got to make a decision on how far you want to optimize. We all want to optimize. We all chase perfection. Um, but as the old saying, don't let perfect get in the way of good. So it's that's the discussion we're going through at the moment. We're still the end of Q3 is what we've said, and that's what we continue to say as we work through that. And then again, we're now into the feasibility study, so we're doing more than one thing at once, which is good. That's what we should be doing.
And of course, the US government has been incredibly gracious with leaders in this sector that are based in the United States. It's my understanding that many of those decisions about getting more excited, because they've already shown their excitement for American rare earths, will occur once the PFS is done. Is that correct?
Well, I'm from a US government perspective, I can't speak for them. What I can say is that the government in Wyoming are extremely supportive. They really understand resource development, very mature state from a resource development perspective. So it's incredibly helpful dealing with a government in Wyoming who understands the resource sector. In DC, we know that this particular industry, rare earths, magnets, which are really a technology industry, the US is the tip of the spear. The West more generally knows the criticality of this. Japan, since 2010, has been moving faster than the West more generally. But the US is the tip of the spear. We continue to engage with DC to make sure there's a clear understanding of what Halleck Creek is for the strategic future of the US. Really important for us to pull together our vertical integration that we're working on, our intention to be a mine to magnet company, but we're doing that in a very methodical way, Tracy. And it's great as we get to communicate that to the federal and state level of government in an ongoing way.
When the Exum announcement around American Rares came out, it was quite extraordinary. It was the largest amount they had announced. I believe it was 458 million. Is that Exum deal still in place?
The letter of intent is still in place with Exum, and I continue to engage with Exum as well as other areas of the federal government. Exactly, that is a non-binding letter of intent, to be clear. So Exactly how the project financing will come together is a work in progress. I think the macros of the industry are really good. We just need to continue to work and look for the right set of partners at all levels, both commercial partners, government partners, state and federal, in order to set this project up for success.
There is so much misleading information about the rare earth sector, as I'm reminded by Jack Lipton on a daily basis. Is there a question or a point you'd like to make about American rare earths that you wish someone would either ask you or just an interesting fact about American rare earths you'd love to share with the Investor News audience?
I think, Tracy, what's interesting to me coming in is how has such a strategic deposit in such a good jurisdiction, Wyoming, remain largely under the radar for so long? I don't know. I think there's been some discussions about it. It's potentially linked to the fact that the company has been publicly listed in Australia, although there are operating companies in the United States. So I think the transition to the Nasdaq will be a significant part of unhooking this story. But I think that would be the question. How come it's so big, but it stayed under the radar really for so long?
Well, so what should we as shareholders look forward to in the next quarter? Obviously, the feasibility study is number one on the menu, I'm guessing.
Well, it's certainly on the menu. I mean, the pilot plant is a massive undertaking that we're doing here. I mean, there are analogs to folks doing pilot plants in this business that have taken 6 years or more. We're proposing to do that in around 10 months. So, and we're doing that because we're doing it differently. We're not trying to do the same thing faster. We're trying to do a different thing at the pace it should be done. So by breaking this up, by doing two parts of it in Wyoming with partners, one part of it at the quasi-government facility in Canada, the Saskatchewan Research Council, we are putting together our demonstration plant in a way that is much, much faster than anyone else has done before. And I think that's taking a lot of time and effort. We've got to get that right. We do have Jay Pickart running that with us, and he's a great guy. He was the COO of Rare Element Resources previously. So I think Jay's amazing and very helpful. So the pilot plant, the PFS you've talked about, busy optimizing that. We need to decide when enough is enough. The feasibility study we started, the permitting, of course, we are moving forward at full steam. The Nasdaq we've talked about, our ongoing discussions about how the best way to integrate this company into the mine to magnet supply chain looks. As you know, Tracy, we've discussed before, we're studying metallization. So what would it take for us to take our own products through to metal, the precursor to the magnet? Had an update call on that yesterday. Very, very interesting where we're going with that. And then the project financing, the part we've been talking about, what's the right mix to bake the cake here? And we're working through that. So quite a lot going on. It's a really exciting place to be, Tracy.
Well, for those of you interested in finding out more, I recommend you go to the following website. Mr. Wall, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Tracy.